I am in the process of packing for a 2-week trip to England and Italy. And a big part of that trip is creating art. I'm going to teach at a creative retreat. And then while I'm in England, like what I'm most excited about is taking pictures for future reference for paintings, and then also doing some sketching and painting in person. So I wanted to share my art supply setup, what I'm bringing. So let me start with the oil paints. I have not traveled internationally with my oil painting setup before. I felt like it was just too complicated, but oils are my favorite, so I'm going to bring them this time. And I'm bringing this is actually an antique oil painting box, a pochade box. And it's quite a clever design because it has a couple of slots, so it can be a wet panel carrier as well. They are irregular sizes, but I went ahead and cut a couple of panels out of MDF and gessoed them, so those are ready. And it has a thumb hole so I can hold it while I'm painting, and there's a palette that fits in it as well. And I'm carrying a few short-handled brushes and cut off a few handles of some brushes that I like to use regularly. Palette knife, pencil, a little ruler, and then a little cup for solvent or linseed oil, which I will get solvents when I get there, since you can't travel with those. Then the palette fits inside. And then I have made some wet panel carriers out of just cardboard, and I'm gonna share how I did that, but I have those. And then I have applied gesso and toned some, I think they're called carton boards or cartoon boards or something like that. It's basically it's a thin cardboard, but it is made to be a painting surface. And then I'm going to bring a couple of linen panels. They're lightweight, and I can use them either as a support for these, and I'll also use them to paint on. And then to carry these when they're wet, I have these clips. These are like 3D printed clips off of Etsy. Oops, that you can use to clip wet panels together like that. So you'd use 4 clips and it leaves some space when you're dealing with wet paintings. And then I'm bringing, these are the oil paints that I'm bringing. And I don't usually use linseed oil. I usually use Luggage gel. So I'm bringing this solvent-free Luggage medium. And then I'm bringing Ziploc bags for dirty paper towels, which I will get there. Not dirty paper towels, but paper towels. And then these are latex gloves, so I don't get paint on my hands. And some baby wipes in case I do get paint on my hands, which does happen even with gloves or on my arms or something. It's just for cleaning things off. And all of my oil painting stuff fits in this zipper pouch here. And then for everything else, I'm bringing a journal. It's just a typical moleskin journal, and a sketchbook, which it has watercolor paper in it, so I can use it for watercolors, but also just for sketching. This is my watercolor palette. It's one I made myself, like with tube watercolors that I filled. And this is just kind of my go-to palette. I'm very familiar with all these pigments, and I am always tempted to bring more palettes and stuff, but since I want to keep this as light as possible, this is the one I'm going to bring. And just put a little rubber band on that to keep it closed. Bring a pair of scissors. Those will go in my suitcase for cutting tape or paper or whatever I need. As far as the assortment of pens and pencils, I'm going to bring a couple of waterproof Micron markers. These are Copic value markers for doing like no-tan sketches or value sketches, a small ruler, a couple of white One's a white paint pen and one is a white gel stick for using as a white on watercolors if I need that. I have a few mechanical pencils with different lead sizes and kneadable erasers. This is a little viewfinder for landscapes, looking for what I want to sketch or paint. This is my favorite artist tape. It's low tack, it doesn't rip paper. I have a foldable, this is brand new, which is why it's so clean. It's a foldable cup. It'd work better if I take the lid off. There we go. For my watercolor water, but it folds up so tiny. I think it's gonna be perfect. I have a few brushes for watercolor, a couple of bowl clips for keeping the sketchbook open when I'm working on it, and then the pouches that everything goes into. And I will also take my favorite dip pen along, or fountain pen, and I'll make sure I have ink in that. And that'll be it. So the oil paint stuff and the scissors will go in my checked luggage, and the rest of this stuff will go in my carry-on backpack.